What up, YouTube? I want to have a bit of an introspective sort of conversation today. Basically, what I want to talk about is a losing streak. And I want to get some of your feedback on, do you think a losing streak is real? And what is a losing streak? I believe personally that a losing streak is something that's real, but I also have a very different concept about winning, which is something I sort of want to talk about with you guys too. Sort of, I don't know, I think maybe it's an interesting thought process. Maybe I should share with some people. It might be helpful. Information if you don't believe what I believe. But basically, I think a losing streak is something that's real because I believe obviously in losing itself is a skill set or a lack of a skill set, and winning itself is a skill set that can be taught. It's not like you just win or you just lose. Like winning itself at all things, success basically does have a formula. First part of that formula, and I think it's pretty easy. I break it down into 3 steps. The first part is tool assessment and being self-aware. And it's important to have this as the first step, and I'm going to explain why, but I'm going to explain what it is. You have to be aware of what your options are. So that's what I think is the first step. Being aware of your options, knowing what you can do. Second thing is situational awareness, being aware of what it is you have to overcome. So, sounds simple enough. I mean, that's all it is, being the ability to, recognize. Third step, I think, is execution. Being able to take your, tools and the ability to properly apply them to the situation. So the efficiency with which you operate the first 2 steps is the third step. And it's that simple. So the reason why the first step is important to be the first step is because when you get to step 2, and you're aware of what the situation is, what's the first thing you want to do? You want to recognize how you can apply your tools. So that's why the first thing in your mind has to be what you can do. Second thing has to be what it is, just because that's on your priority list. You have to, it's an age-old saying, you got to take care of yourself before you take care of anybody else. Third step being execution, obviously, because, you don't want to apply effort into anything unless you know what you're applying it to, which would be the situation, situational awareness. And obviously, you can't apply, you don't have any, the situation has no context without being aware of your tools. So, when you're on a losing streak, I think it's sort of somewhere along the lines, basically it starts at execution, because execution is, that's the utmost layer. So you learn, you stop learning how to, be situationally aware and be able to assess your tools. So I think a losing streak is sort of when you unlearn, when you get into too much of a pattern. I think it can, that's why winning and losing, I think, sort of comes in streaks, because, it really depends on how you experience things. But I think if you're so used to winning in a certain capacity, it muddles your execution, because basically if you're lazy on your situational awareness because you're in the same situation so often, then obviously you're not, gonna, your situational awareness in turn does sort of affect your tool assessment, because that's how it sort of all crumbles from the top down. Because once you get to the point where your execution is not so much because your situational awareness, you're just in the same situation and you're achieving victory, but you're not paying attention to how you're doing it, just because you're doing it in the same way. It's sort of like ingrained into you, and you're picking up a habit. this in turn, makes it so you have to rebuild yourself from the ground up, because your tool assessment becomes off, because when it comes to that point and you're at the habit level of training yourself to win in just one situation, when you're at the habit level, you're not even paying attention to yourself. And when you lose track of yourself, that's when you have to start all over in order to again become victorious. So I think winning streaks are a result of losing streaks. And one thing that you can teach yourself is just how to not go into streaks. And I think that's part of the overall a higher level of achieving 3 steps to success, because you're more aware of yourself and aware that in your set of tools you have tools that are sort of a double-edged sword. When you're going beyond that surface level, I think that causes overall improvement. So in the end, a losing streak can eventually be, increase your win percentage overall as a person. And basically, you can apply it to anything. It doesn't matter what you're doing. Playing football, basketball, pool, video games, getting jobs, and landing dates. I don't know. It's just when you put it on a broad scope of options, and when you put it on a broad scope of just think of the word options. It doesn't just apply to any one thing. It applies to life in general. You have an option in everything that you do. So being able to recognize and have that higher level of recognition is sort of the key. But okay, so I just want to know, after sort of going off on that little tangent, but I want to know what your thoughts are on losing streak. I really, it's a fascinating concept to me, really, and I think that fully exploring that end of what's what on that deeper level, it's a beneficial conversation to have. So I want y'all to hit me up, YouTube. If you think you want some of your friends to get in on the conversation, pass the video around. Ask them, do you think a losing streak is something that's real? A winning streak or a losing streak? I would really like to hear everybody's input I possibly could, because honestly, I think it's something that's real, but at the same time, some people are just like, I don't believe in luck. But I don't believe in luck either. But I don't think, people think about that concept of winning and losing as individual skills. So anyway, I'm getting back into it too much, YouTube. Y'all gonna have to, follow me on Twitter, at Cam Chaddick, whatever. You guys gotta get up with me elsewise, because I'm gonna start going off way too deep into some other shit.